right? Once you know what the argument is, then you're gonna focus, and she's gonna focus her tailoring her audience to solve that particular argument. What does she want people to do as a result of reading her speech or listening to her speech? Take a second and turn to the person sitting next to you. Give them a chance to finish up if they're still writing, but turn to them and feel really confident about those two questions or any questions that you have. Get some questions answered, and then we're gonna chart some responses on the board. All right, so take like 2 minutes, make sure you can come to a consensus argument and audience. A few questions too. Oh, no, work with them first. I've analyzed this speech like a couple times, so I'm not a good part.
I got this down. Where's Callie?
I know.
She can drive through a tunnel at 11:29, but can't
Right. Just miss her.
I said, you learn that like
Good.
she's gone to a lot.
What's the argument?
saying how she wants her rights as a black woman
Yeah.
and that to be equivalent.
But she's speaking to people more than likely to question her.
Also,
She was like addressing women with self-violence.
Yeah, very nice.
Right again, but also she's like.
So audience, she's saying is?
Yeah.
I said definitely.
you're saying for how she was talking maybe more specifically with black women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she's showing like
Yeah.
I'm more capable
Yeah,
of
this
stepping
outside in the crowd.
Right, good, no, I like that.
Like she's sort of skipped the women,
Yeah.
but, like the one.
Yeah, she's trying to be like the ideal.
Because they have even more rights than white women. Yeah. Like, yeah, I don't think she was even talking about race really. I think she was talking about women.
So
No,
that by
no.
showing that her as a woman can do that.
That's really good though.
I said the God.
I kind of got that.
That's I put confusing for that.
But she was saying like.
Sheree was gonna go and I was like, on me, or she was like a back, I thought like, before it wasn't any better, so why was it back? I said like, that would make.
I think she was means like that like it started off with women like.
If you're done, because I when
And then now they're saying like you have to.
I mean, bringing God into like a whole
I think it's just that that's what people are using their argument as.
Yeah.
I was like, hey.
I love how you use it as a things like plank report.
saying about the water.
If my couple who are pint you guys supposed to report. I guess she's saying like she has even less rights and she's still like getting those.
I was making sure Rachel.
Just like you won't even let me have mine up, like you're not even letting me have my little right to have.
So me, basically.
I did find out that
Are a great part of the audience, yeah, because they're the dominant people that can make decisions, right? Good. People listen to them. Anybody else for audience? Or argument, is this really the only thing she's saying? Hannah?
We were saying also for argument that she was like kind of like saying that women need to be the ones who like step up and that they're capable of getting their rights again.
How did you know that?
The very last paragraph, she says, the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all alone, and these women together ought to be able to turn it back.
Okay, so once everybody turns to that back page. So, right, if the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down, we should all be able to do that again. So, including that inclusive we, I'm one of you. Like men say we can't do any of these things, but we can, and furthermore, we should be the ones to kind of stand up for ourselves and create these spaces for ourselves. Good. Anybody else? Yes, my God, I think. And so if that's my argument, the essential argument you're thinking is that women need to be the ones to step up for themselves, my audience then most specifically becomes women, right? So it's the men are there in the room and they're listening, yeah, but it's really our fault. You know, like we could be changing this and we're not doing anything about it. Good, so I like this one too. Any others from a lot of groups? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, like right after that, it says that like the same paragraph where
Mhm.
Hannah was talking about, it says, and now they is asking to do it. The men better let them. So
Right.
like that completely like addresses men.
Right, the men better let these guys do, like, we wanna do this, right? This is what this was a women's rights convention. So, and now the men is asking us to do it, so we better be able to do that. Right, good, I like that too. Men better let us. So it's almost like we need to be prepared to take on this responsibility, but the men better be prepared to let go of that responsibility and that control. Because sometimes it's really hard to let go of control of things we've normally had, right? Good. Anybody else? Kayla, go ahead.
Okay, so like whenever I read this at first, I thought like politeness, you know, like how you're supposed to be a gentleman and like help them.
Right.
Like I didn't know if that had anything to do with this, or like.
Yeah, so going back to that second paragraph again.
But then I thought about like what time period it was,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I feel this, I didn't know if she was like saying that, like if she actually considered those to be like how you treat a woman, or if she was like mocking them saying that.
Right. What's her tone there? Because that would give us right, if we could analyze her tone a little bit, that might provide, is she mocking? Is she saying this needs to be happening? Is she appreciative of it? What tone does she develop?
Is she saying that even though they don't do that, she's still like a woman, or is she, I don't know.
So even though men don't do that for her, she's still a woman.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something she's saying, right? Nobody ever helps me into carriages, skip down to the next line, and ain't I a woman? But nobody ever helps me into carriages. Is she also making the argument, so a step beyond that, do women or should women be helped into carriages? Gabrielle, you're shaking your head, can you
I would
explain
say-
a bit?
I think you could interpret that as she's saying that she's empowered, like on her own, and she doesn't need a man to feel like strong and like she can hold her own against a man.
Yeah, absolutely. Is she also generalizing that to all women, do you
Yeah,
think?
I think so.
Anybody else? Do you think she thinks less of women who appreciate that?
Maybe just because they're not acting, like, and that's why she's making a speech, is to like empower them.
Mm-hmm. So it's okay to be helped into carriages as long as you're still actively involved in making life better for a woman. But if you're just going to be that woman to get helped into carriages and that's it, maybe not such a good thing. Thomas, what do you think?
I make the same thing that for the argument.
For this argument or this one?
The first.
This first one? Okay. Does she think that African American women should be helped into carriages?
I don't know, I think that she can do it herself because it says I can work as much and need as much as a man.
Mm-hmm. She does say that. Did anybody talk about something you learned from Truth is that she's such a strong person? I think the second paragraph really does that too, right? I've plowed and planted, no man has been helping me, aren't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as a man, and I can bear the lash, ain't I a woman? And then look at that very last sentence there, the point that Kayla brought up too, I've borne 13 children and sold most of them off into slavery. That to me is kind of hitting home to women also, right? Like, white women probably have never had that experience, right? But she's had that experience. And so she's strong enough to be able to step up now despite all of that stuff that she's had to go through. So she's physically strong, emotionally strong, and now she's saying there should be nothing holding us back, right? We can do all of these things. I can do them, and I'm an African American woman who has not as many rights as you white women have, and yet I've been able to do all these things. So why aren't we stepping up? Why am I just the one stepping up? Good, yeah.
I feel like it's kind of like weird for her to say she's like stepping up when like, I don't know, like it seems like she's like, I don't know, this might be way off, but like when I was reading this, I was like, does she want to like get these things? Like is she jealous of like these women who do get these things? That's,
Yeah.
like I don't know, I thought it was like kind of like jealousy. Like obviously like I know she's like strong and stuff like that. Like in the overall tone of the passage, she was like, oh like we need to like step up and stuff like that. But like I don't know,
Right.
throughout that paragraph I thought she was like, oh you should like do this for me, I don't know.
Right. Do you think she would accept being helped into a carriage?
I don't know because I guess she hasn't. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe if she was
Yeah.
like not in that life and like she was just a normal like white woman, I don't know.
Then she would, but now it's almost maybe too late for her to even think about that happening.
It seemed like it was talking about like African American rights to me, like in
Mhm.
that passage, like because she's African American, she's not like
being helped, that's why I wasn't sure.
Right, right. No, I think, so would you say her primary audience then is African American women?
I think women.
She's like most, I feel like women, but like African American women would probably be more because they're like they can relate to her.
Mm-hmm.
Because like white women probably can't relate that much, but like they can still. Like,
Yeah.
the part about like like God and stuff, I feel like that could, but like
Mm-hmm.
everything else kind of hits home to like African American.
Yeah, I gotta write that word down, relate. What do you, is she an effective speaker to a white woman, do you think, in this time? Why no?
Because like, I don't know, I feel like during this time period it was just like so like different. I don't think white women can relate to what she's saying at all because like, I don't know, like, I don't know the time period, I don't know all the historical background, I
No,
don't know
but-
when like slavery ended, but like, I'm guessing
Right.
this is the era of slavery, so
Yeah,
like,
because it's pre-Civil
white
War.
women probably
so-
like, oh, she's nothing, like, just like, pass her aside.
Right. And maybe even one of those things like we don't care about problems until they hit us,
Yeah.
and white women were hopping into carriages. So do they really have the kinds of problems that she's talking about? Would they be able to relate to it and really be persuaded? They might not even want to even think they could be persuaded by an African American woman. Like they wouldn't. Her words mean nothing to me. Like, you know, right? Who they might not want to admit that she's that powerful. Kayla.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they had like a certain language back then that could have like turned white women like away
Mm-hmm.
because of the language she used,
Yeah.
like the grammar, like it's not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's just like, you know what I mean.
Right, no. That's a good point too. So did her diction impede on the meaning of the speech for you? How do you think her diction would have, I don't know, your diction says a lot about you also, right? The way you speak says a lot about you. So do you think that her way of speaking was effective? Do you think it held her back? Do you think, Mark?
Well, I think that she kind of used almost like an authoritative kind of tone, like she was
She
almost
does,
like,
Yeah.
I mean, almost like giving them a challenge to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think maybe a lot of the women at that convention kind of just went on a big rant on different ideas and didn't really challenge anyone to anything, and she kind of just came out and just said, like, what
Yeah.
was on her mind and gave them a challenging almost right away.
Right.
And I think that they didn't know, like, the impact that she was gonna have. Like,
Mhm.
she, like, from, like, at the top of the page, it says she was born in 1797
Mm-hmm.
and died in 1883, like, she
Mhm.
was almost, like, 100 years old,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I think, like, well, not almost 100, but she was, like, pretty old when she died, which was probably, like, against the norm,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mhm.
so she survived through slavery
Mm-hmm.
and all that, so I think if they would have realized that the impact that she would have had, they maybe would have listened a little more.
Mm-hmm. You did say she developed this authoritative tone. Can you point to a specific place where she was?
Probably in the second paragraph when she
Mm-hmm.
targets out the man. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think that's definitely not something you would do as a woman. Like, you don't target men's problems. It's normally the men who target women's problems.
Right. So calling out that, like, the direct address there, like, that man over there is trying to say this. Well, that didn't happen for me. She's
Yeah.
strong enough to be able to say that. Yeah,
It was like
absolutely.
against the norm for you to single out a man, but it was fine if a man could single out a woman.
Right, right. So maybe that had the effect of making women feel more respect for her, and she's able to do that. Wow, imagine if that was your husband sitting over there, you know, and she just called your husband out in front of everyone. Good, I've been waiting to do that for 10 years, right? Maybe not, I don't know, but I think that's a good point. Anything else about her diction? Do you think was effective or not? Yeah.
I just like what Mark was saying about being authoritative. I feel
Mhm.
like just like when she says like that's it, honey. Like just the way she talks to the audience, it just makes it seem like she knows what she's talking about, and like
Right.
it seems like informal almost. And I feel like that's why it was it could like be persuasive because it's not like she's acting like she doesn't know them. She's like talking with them.
Right. Okay, so it's informal, she's talking with them, right, because it is extemporaneous. She didn't plan on doing this, she wasn't invited to speak. She just stood up and said, my name's Turner Truth and I got something to say. And she just gives the speech. So, right, so she's informal, which gives us that attitude of, hey, I'm with you guys, I've been there. But she still is saying these emotionally authoritative ideas that are getting her audience it seems to be maybe on her side. I don't know if you think it's effective or not. We can talk about that in a second. Look at that line that Hannah pointed out though. Then they talk about this thing in the head. What's this they call it?